Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And so in this story or in this video, I'm gonna tell you a real estate rental story. And the title of the video is sometimes you have to pretend to care when you don't, right? And this isn't me talking about I don't care about my tenant. I definitely care about my tenant. In fact, like one of my I guess my happiest moment as a landlord was not even this. So my first check was 14 grand, but it didn't really make me that happy. I'll tell you what really made me happy is when I got this text message. Thank you so much for everything. We appreciate you. And I think she could tell that me, just as a person, I'm a caring person, right? Like I'm not like someone who's gonna like fall over backwards and do whatever you want to do, but I am gonna take care of the people under my wing. You know what I mean? And so in this video, I'm going to tell you why it's important that even with certain things that are not a big deal to you, you should still act like you care. You know what I mean? And it's the little things that seem inconsequential, but they make a big deal, right? And so I'm just tell you how my thought process works in dealing with other people. In this case, it'll be a tenant. And so, my tenant rarely texts me. Like if she texts me, I'm assuming it's like an emergency or like there's something big or but I've only heard from her like 2 or 3 times a year, right? And mostly it's just like, hey, when are in the most nice, friendly way, like rent is due, right? That's really it. And then out of the blue, she texts me like, hey, your mail came, and I was like 99% sure that it was junk mail. And deep down inside my heart, I wanted to tell her just throw it away because it's junk mail, right? But you can't do that. And again, this is just my thought process. So your thought process might be different from mine as a landlord. But I feel like that these little things will eventually lead to big consequences if you don't take care of it. And I kind of think of it as a water leak, right? So water leak is not a big deal, the first couple of minutes that it happens, right? You get a little drip. But if you just let that drip keep dripping and you don't take care of the water leak, house is destroyed, right? And then your tenant moves out of the house, right? So it's these little things that I really am sensitive to, especially when it comes to just communicating um, yourself to other people, right? Like the way that you express yourself in the language. So even little things like the tenant texting me about mail coming to the rental house, right? And here's the thing: I have a business virtual address. So all of my company LLC mail should go to that business virtual address, which I go to, I think once a month. And then the most disappointing thing is when I go there, there's absolutely no mail. And so I think what companies do is they scan like public records and then they send junk mail offers and they see that an LLC is like the owner of the property and then just send their junk mail there. And then, the tenant, here's the thing: if the tenant is going out of her way to message me that mail came for me, 99% of the time, I'm not going to tell her throw it away. And I'll tell you why. Throwing it away and me not picking it up is almost signaling to her I don't care. And one of the things what you want to do in almost any service-based business is take out any interpretation about how you don't care. Okay? It doesn't matter what service it is, whether you're a lawyer, accountant, um, you know, landlord. You have to eliminate any possibility with your client or your tenant that they can interpret what you're saying as you don't care, right? And so deep down inside, I definitely didn't care because I don't want to drive 40 minutes to a rental house just to pick up junk mail, right? So I said, "Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Go ahead and pick it up. Can I pick it up later today?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll leave it in the mailbox, right?" And in my mind, it's like, shoot, I have to drive 40 minutes just to pick up junk mail in the mailbox. Now it's kind of like this scenario is kind of like a water leak, right? Not a big deal if you don't pick up the mail or you just wait a day or two. But if your tenant is going to leave junk mail in the mailbox, right, for you to pick up and you don't pick it up the same day and she goes to pick up the mail the next day, what is she going to think about you, right? So again, in her subconscious mind, she's going to think, wow, I texted the landlord. He said he was going to come and he didn't. This guy doesn't really care, right? It's going to seep into her subconsciousness, and then it's going to kind of be like, your house being destroyed. Now, I know I'm like dramatic and over exaggerating, but this is why sometimes, right? And I'm not saying all the time. It's very important to show that you pretend to care when you don't. And here's the thing, you don't have to care about every single thing. It's really important that you care about your human relationships, how you conduct yourself in front of other people. But, when it comes to junk mail, I don't want to care. Like, I care about my tenant, but I don't care about the junk mail. But sometimes you got to care about that, because if you don't make like a big deal to, especially when people are reaching out to you, right? If people are reaching out to you, I always see, like, every time, I get an email or a text like, "Hey, like, oh my goodness, like, please tell me you care," right? And in that interaction, if the other person senses, "Hey, I don't think you care," I always think that's going to lead to disastrous consequences, right? So I went up, drove 40 minutes, pick up the mail, and was like, "Ugh, did I really have to do this?" But the answer is yes, because if the tenant in her mind thinks that I don't care, it's eventually, and this is just the way that I think, it's eventually going to lead her to disrespecting the house and all disastrous consequences, right? That's just how I think, fortunately or unfortunately. And I think that's, maybe that's why I'm able to get this check from the tenant. But you know again, this is my situation, not yours. I love to show this check, but I would never say like this is something you could do. In fact, I don't even know if there's any other landlord on the planet who got like a big check, right? And then this text message is like the cherry on the cake, or not cherry on the cake, what do you call it, cherry on the pie. Yeah, it's like that sweet cherry on on top, right? Cherry on top. That's the thing. I'm just going nuts. All right. Well, so what do you think? Do you think you would have acted the same way, or do you think that you would just hit to the 10? Hey, yeah, just throw it away. It's junk mail. I definitely would not say that. I would just be like, oh man, like I got mail. I got to go pick it up. And even if it's junk mail, it's like, yeah, I had to act like I care. Because if I don't act like I care, the tenant is going to sense that, and then she's eventually going to say to herself, like, or in her subconscious mind, well, if this the guy doesn't care, why do I, you know, I'm not going to care. That's how people are. When you're in a leadership position, and this is kind of like the fault of many leaders. A lot of leaders just take shortcuts, and they don't see that like the people beneath them are catching on. Like, your energy and the way that you conduct yourself is actually transmitted to the people who are following you. So if you're tired and you don't want to do whatever it is you want to do, other people will sense that they're going to follow you too. That's how human nature and behavior works. Same with landlord-tenant relationships. If you got are able to transmit the type of energy that you want to convey to your tenant, you gotta make sure you work on that, right? And the type of energy that I always want to convey is that, hey, I'm this caring person that's gonna spend as least time possible in the property, but I'm gonna look out for you, right? That's the way that that's the type of energy that I would like to convey. But I always want the other person to think, yeah, I am there for you when you need me, right? It's kind of like that Seinfeld episode about being there, right? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, just ignore what I'm saying. All right. All right. Well, this is Korean Atlanta Mentorship. I don't know if I could call this free landlord training or not, or maybe it's just like, how would you react to that? Do these little things lead to big consequences in your opinion, or is it just like, am I overreacting? Right. Well, all right. Well, have a great day, everybody, and we will speak next time.